Robo Sanda Bakata, Robo Sutunda Bayana Masata. Ava Yahweh is saying that he's so pleased to tell that his earth is full of his glory. Robo Kutu Sutunda Bayana Masata. Rebendidibiki Robo Sutu Kanda Bayana Masata. Again he says it. The earth is full of my glory. Robo Kutu Sutunda Bayana Masete ki Robo Sutu Kutu Kutu. Rebendidibikito robo sanda bakato robo sanda bayana masata. Kerebekito robo soto. He says bewitchment has taken over the earth. Korobo sotunda yana masata. But he says his glory fills the temples. Korobo sanda bayana masata. He says the temples of the whole ones. He says the whole body ones that are able to keep his grace. He says there is no substitution, children, for his spirit. He says no other force in heaven or in earth can compare, can match, can supersede. He says he is his divine intelligence and intellect. He says when my glory fills the whole earth, he says, in the temples. He says in my structures. He says they will go forth and manifest great signs. He says miracles. He says healings. He says divine interventions. He says the enemies will crumble at their defeat. He says the earth in all of its fullness is experiencing. He says mammoth amounts of grace. He says as we rise above the wickedness and the evil in the earth. He says his measures will be poured out. He says in great proportions and in great strength. He says he says I have sealed my chosen ones. He says to go forth and do my righteous work. He says the principalities are shaking. He says they're demonized by their own errors. He says as they go forth in the earth, trying to change structures and designs, the designs of my people, the inherent designs, he says, of my people. He says forming shadows that cloud them, that cloud their minds and their hearts, rendering them unable to see. He says my people are grossly affected by this. But he says my people who are called by my name, he says yes, the chosen ones. He says they are affecting this earth in this very moment. He says as things stand still and are waiting for deposits, he says the change is already in effect. He says gargantuous changes. He says epic changes in the earth. He says none like ever seen before. He says my glory will be seen in the earth. He says as I pour it out in great measures. He says people from far and near will draw to my presence. He says to my immaculate presence. He says seamlessly they'll be drawn to my immaculate presence. He says, I am pleased with my chosen ones. He says, I'm pleased with my chosen ones. He says they're about to do great works in the earth. He says in regions. He says chosen provisions. In the midst of the earth. He says, by people who are called by my name are releasing weapons of mass destruction. He says it is for my glory. He says as there's a turnaround for my people, he says. Again, he says huge changes in the earth. He says beyond reaches and limits. Gargantuous changes again, he says. He says where I'm leading them, they will follow. He says every step will be manufactured. He says every step will be ordered by my holy presence. He says as I gallop ahead of them, making marks and trails, he says, for them to follow. He says they will know where to go. And then he says they will know how to lead the others.